When I read the script, it was such an emphatic yes, and all I ever say is no. And due to the script, but also due to John's track record of making these kinds of movies, these musicals that balance, the magic of the musical genre, but then aren't ridiculous like so many musicals are, and have that humanity and grounded heart. It's so rare to find, and I ran to try to get into this movie and had to really convince this man to let me do it.
Well, obviously, I haven't read many scripts ever, so.
But it's the best out of them.
Oh, of course, of course. But no, I really enjoyed the script. I was gripped to it from like start to finish. I remember I read all Max's lines. I memorized them because I thought the first day I met John that he was going to start quizzing me about all the lines, which didn't end up happening. But I do remember like thoroughly looking through the script, and I really, really enjoyed reading it.
What did I say? I think what I said was fuck the business, right? Something like that.
I recall something similar.
Yeah, something like that. Well, and honestly, it's easy to get wrapped up in the quote-unquote business and forget about the art. And it's great to be here at Sundance. And it's sometimes easy to forget because there is a lot of commerce that happens here at Sundance. But ultimately, when Robert Redford founded this place, it's exactly about supporting voices in cinema that don't necessarily fit into the most commercial buckets of Hollywood. And that spirit's still very much alive here if you still believe in Sundance.
I mean, I'm trying to think. Well, I had a kid, so I'm an old dad. I'm a granddad. I look like a granddad. So I was in the middle of my life looking at small children and going, what's my relationship with them? And that made me think a lot about my relationship then with my own parents, and specifically my mother. And it was out of that weird thing. So I sometimes wrote as the kid, and sometimes I wrote as the mother, and sometimes I wrote as the guy that Joe plays, who's playing songs as a teacher, because I was not a good enough songwriter to ever be a proper musician. I'm a bit of a hobbyist. So it was kind of that. It was sort of experimenting with different ideas of parenting, being a kid, looking at my parents, and sort of sitting at home with COVID, reflecting on all of that was where it came from.
Oh, so COVID is useful in certain respects.
It certainly made, I don't know, for writers, I think everybody was sitting at home, weren't they? Probably going, what are people going to want to see when we get out of this? And placing their money on black or red, or, putting all their chips over or whatever. And I definitely was in that headspace as well of like, what are people going to want when we get out of this?
She's kind of like every woman in Ireland. Like, like the script, she is such a unique character. And we kept talking about that. Like, we were like, who is this chick? She's nuts. But then there's something so familiar as well about that kind of woman. And I grew up in Dublin, and I definitely have that in me, even though I grew up on the south side. But like, it's something, it's sort of like it's an attitude, and it's a humor that is just so unique to our country. And I was just so excited that it was going to have this kind of like, moment in a film and in a musical, and the romance and all of it was just going to like put this kind of person right at the forefront. She's just bold and crazy, and I love playing bold and crazy people.
I finally got to play music in a movie. It's really true. I've always wanted to do it, and I've always been a musician at heart and love doing it. And, I've learned to do many things for movies. I've learned to, walk on a tightrope, or play hockey, or like certainly lots of fighting and shooting and things like that. But this time I was practicing a skill that I've practiced most of my life, but having to do it at a bit more of a skill level than what I was used to, and that was the thing that I had to convince John of. I remember saying, like, I know I'm not a professional musician, and I know part of you wants to like hire some awesome musician to play this part, but I'm telling you, I will practice every day. I will do whatever it takes. You won't have to worry about my musicianship. And I was so touched that he put his confidence in me and let me do this, because I've always wanted to play music in a movie.
I couldn't miss out on this amazing opportunity. It was such a great character. And it was funny when I was practicing the guitar and like all of that stuff. I was staying at home, and my sister plays the piano and she writes music, and my brother's in a band. And I was like, it's like we're at band camp. It's just so embarrassing. We're all like tuning our guitars. But yeah, I got over the fear.
Totally. Sundance has been I mean, to bring it back to Irishness, which I think I have to do, is I know so many people in Ireland who are 50 times more talented than I am, and, you know, have had a measure of success on that island, you know, who can't afford to pay their mortgage or their rent. It's a small island. You can appear to be doing well and have nothing in the bank, which is where I found myself the first time I went to Sundance. I'd made a few things in Ireland, but I really couldn't pay my rent. And Sundance opened the doors for me to really being a filmmaker. You can be a filmmaker in Ireland and you can make films, but it's not a livelihood, which is the worst thing, because you're constantly a striving, struggling, hungry artist, which is not the way, as James Joyce found out, you need a benefactor. You know, you need to put food on the table and look fancy and put a nice tie on, and then create. And Sundance has been and continues to be how I pay for, you know, just the success of Once here and then being back with Sing Street, and now it's really it really is the artistic, as Joe put so brilliantly. You know, you do have fancy LA people and agents on the street now, and it is very business oriented in lots of ways. But then you open the program, and the programmers are working so hard to make this the festival that it is. The films are so good, the images are so strong, it's so independent. It really is the perfect world of, here, I want to be a filmmaker, I also want to put some jam on the bread and put my kids through school. So yeah, I'm eternally kind of grateful to Sundance for that.